December 4th, and I am beginning my Battle of the Best vlog where I am challenging myself to reread all of my favorite books of 2023. I did start this morning with beginning my rereading of The Haunting of Hill House. This is actually my third time rereading this book this year. I literally, when I read this, I want to like sink my teeth into this book. It is currently 9 p.m. and I did finish rereading The Haunting of Hill House. One of my favorite parts of this book is when Eleanor and Theo are meeting for the first time at Hill House, and Theo and Eleanor are about to go exploring the grounds outside Hill House. Theo laughs, swings around, and catches Eleanor's hand, and she says, "Fellow babe in the woods, let's go exploring." And I need a BFF that I can make matching bracelets with, and it will say "Fellow babe in the woods." I love that so much. We are starting out this challenge with The Haunting of Hill House at the #1 spot. The book that I decided to pick up and start reading next is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. I will definitely be back tomorrow to update you guys after I finish this and pick up the next book. I'm back for another update. I ended up getting to finish this book yesterday. I did get to annotate a lot of the book, so I'll show you guys, like, I have a lot of my stickies in here. Something in particular I really love about this book is that we watch the main character from when he's a little baby all the way until he's growing up and he's leaving home. I love getting to watch a character's life unfold. Actually, that's so interesting because the next book I'm gonna talk about has a very similar theme to it. The Graveyard Book is going into slot #2. The book that I most felt like reading next is The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. If you guys love really poetic writing, I seriously feel like this is a must read. It's so underrated. It's been a while since I filmed my last update. I think it is currently December 17th. I am not doing great with this challenge, you guys. I am definitely slacking. So it's December 17th and I have only completed 4 of my 15 rereads. I did finish rereading this one. This book, I'm just so impressed by the writing. I want to show you guys this page because I love my annotations here. Like, I think that looks gorgeous. I want every book on my shelf that I love, like I want my favorites to all look like this on every single page. The main character, everything that she does in this book, it's very morally gray, and I love like exploring that line. For now, this book is at the #3 slot. The next book I finished rereading since my last update was Episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. I had so much fun rereading this book. Oh my goodness. I reread this entire book in less than 24 hours. Like, I flew through it. I love paranormal investigation. It's so interesting to me. It hooks me. I love like paranormal ghost hunting shows. Anything ghost and paranormal is like totally my thing. I'm just fascinated by it, and I think that's why so many of my top 15 are ghost books, haunted house books, something that has to do with the paranormal. This is like a found footage book where we're following this group of ghost hunters who have this reality TV show, and they go to this very haunted house called Foundation House, and they really get trapped in a nightmare. Really fast paced, totally a page turner. Even though I knew what was coming, it was still a page turner. The ending is totally mind-bending. I keep thinking about this one. It's really crazy, and This is another one that I really like some of the, not moral questions, but like life philosophical questions that it examines. Like, what is a ghost? What happens to us after we die? Utterly fascinating to me. So I really enjoy this one. As far as ranking, where are we at with our rankings? This is what we are looking like so far. We have The Haunting of Hill House, The Graveyard Book, episode 13, and then The God of Endings at number 4. I have next started rereading Our Hideous Progeny by C.E. McGill. I am literally flying through this book so fast. Like, this is not a fast-paced book at all. This is a slow historical fiction, and I'm zooming through this. I read 200 pages of this book in like a couple of hours, but I will talk to you guys as soon as I have another update for you. It is currently December 19th, and I have finished Our Hideous Progeny by C.E. McGill. I feel like I got so much out of this book upon the reread. I'm finding that with every single book, honestly, that on a reread, I connect with it even more. I appreciate the book even more. I really have not seen like anyone really talking about this one. I know it only just came out in October of this year, so it is still a very new release, but I would love to see more people read this. There's such a really good feminist like undertone to this. I am putting this book in the number 2 slot. It is outranking The Graveyard Book. I have next started Mary, so I will update you guys as soon as I finish this book. I do want to quickly show you guys my copy of Our Hideous Progeny. Now, I've done this to a couple of my books where I will get stickers that kind of go with the book. It just feels like I'm kind of personalizing it even more and making it kind of like a special edition. So I got these stickers for the book. These ones that are dinosaurs, these are all plesiosaurus dinosaurs. This little character reminds me so much of the main character of this book, Mary. My favorite one I got is actually this one right here, which is also another plesiosaurus, and it is in a green tea cup. I love that one so much. I wanted to show you guys my laptop because I actually bought 2 of that one so I could put 1 on my laptop. But yeah, that is something I will do to some of my favorite copies, is get some really cool stickers off Redbubble that kind of go with the book or match the theme in some way, and I will put them in my book. I have tried to come back on camera and continue filming my updates multiple times, and I keep deleting my clips or getting my camera set up and deciding I don't want to film. This is the amount of books I have finished since my last update that I need to kind of put into my ranking. And on top of that, it is currently January 9th. Did I finish all 15 books by the end of December? No, I did not. I have all of these books finished, but I still have 4 more rereads to go. I'm having a great time rereading all these books, but I don't think I really took into consideration the amount of extra time it was going to take to annotate all 15 of these books, read them physically and make notes and put my sticky tabs. Like, it takes a lot longer to do that than just reading the book normally. So I am still counting all of these rereads for last year because I don't want them to count for my reading goals this year. I want a fresh slate for 2024. Okay, so the first book that I finished that I neglected to update was Mary by Nat Cassidy. I finished this book on December 19th. Mary is going to be outranking Our Hideous Progeny. It is going to be going right into the number 2 slot. I really, truly debated for a very long time if I wanted this book to outrank The Haunting of Hill House, and I still struggle with trying to decide which book do I like more. I do truly honestly feel like this is one of the most powerful books I have ever read in my life. I annotated this book more than I have ever sticky tabbed any other book. That is another thing I wanted to add. As you guys see, all of these tabs in here that are all crazy, they're all stuck out, they look so disorganized. Those are not my final annotations. Those are tabs I put in as I was reading as a placeholder because I didn't want to stop and get all my pens out, and I just put a little sticky tab in the spot, and I will plan to go back eventually and get out my highlighters and make a nice annotation and redo these tabs here. This was an incredible reading experience the second time around. There were multiple points where I had tears in my eyes, where it gave me the chills, where I laughed out loud, and I truly think this book is a work of art. It's beautiful. The one thing with this book is it is very exhausting because there's a lot of trigger warnings and very dark subject matter. On my reread, I did go through this entire book in one single 24-hour span of time, and I really do not think that is the right way to read this. This book is too dark. I was exhausted after reading this book. I felt like I needed to take a nap. So definitely, if you're gonna pick up this book on my recommendation, I recommend going into it slowly, taking your time with it, taking breaks. Don't read this book in a single sitting, and don't read it in a single day like I did. But it's phenomenal. It's on par with The Haunting of Hill House. But for the sake of this video, we're just gonna go ahead and put it in slot number 2. The next book I read, I finished on December 27th, and that book is The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. This was one that I kind of struggled with for the first half of this book upon my reread, and I kind of thought at a certain point that I was gonna lower my rating from a 5-star to a 4, because the first half of this book, I feel like it takes a while for it to get going. I was kind of questioning, what was it that made me rate this 5 and made me think this was one of my favorites of the year. Once we get to like the halfway point of this book, there's like a big plot twist, and the book just takes off from there. The second half is when this book becomes a really like edge of your seat thriller. And as far as rankings go, I am putting this book below The God of Endings, so it is ranking at the bottom here. The next day, December 28th, I actually finished 2 books that day. At the end of December, I was like in a mad dash to try to finish all of the rereads that I still had left, and I wasn't able to do it. And it really wasn't smart to try to force myself to read like 7 books in 3 days, but I did end up finishing both How Can I Help You and Ghost Eaters on December 28th. I know I finished Ghost Eaters first that day. This book is such a phenomenal exploration on drugs and toxic relationships, and how hard it is to break that addiction to both of those things. I feel like this book is an example of what horror is about. We're exploring these deeper themes under the guise of a ghost story in a haunted house book. Also, there is an aspect of this that's kind of a spoiler, so I'm not gonna say it, but it's a thing that is sometimes used in horror that I really like. I love when authors use this as a trope, and I find it so fascinating. It's something that I want to do a reading challenge for myself later on in this year and read all of the books that kind of hold this theme that I can find. If you want me to spoil it in the comments, just say, what is the Ghost Eaters theme, and I will tell you what it is. This book is great. The last 30 pages are so much fun. God, where do I put it? I am like super debating whether to put it in the 3 spot or the 4 spot. This is impossible. This is impossible trying to rank these books. This is the same thing I had trying to debate with Mary and The Haunting of Hill House. And I literally sat on that for like 2.5 weeks trying to decide which one should be number 1 for this challenge. My ranking as well, you guys, it's really going off of my personal like feeling. It's like a feeling I get of who is the best. Where does this fall in relation to how much I liked that other book? I mean, this is all subjective. It's all my opinion, Like, I'm not judging that this book is a better work of fiction and literature than anything else. I'm just saying I loved this one more than that one. So based on how much I just extremely adored this book at the time of finishing it, let's go ahead and put this book at the number 4 spot. So it goes under Our Hideous Progeny, Everything Else Falls Down one. The next one I finished that day was How Can I Help You by Laura Sims. I also had a ton of fun rereading this one. I think this book is so interesting the way it is written, because we're first following this story through a character who is very strange, almost, dare I say, unhinged. And then you read the whole story through the eyes of this sane person. It just really makes you think how we truly never have any idea what is going on beneath the surface of another person. This one I do want to add as well, I did burst out laughing at least 3 times reading this. The narrator who reads Margot's portion is just so perfect. The tension of this book is like a knife point. I also feel like this author probably had so much fun writing this book, especially the last 5 chapters. I can tell she had fun writing it because I had so much fun reading it. As far as our rankings, I am going to be placing this book at the number 6th spot. So it's falling right below The Graveyard Book, and it is knocking episode 13 out of its spot. The next book I finished was The September House, and I finished this book on January 3rd. There is so much I want to say about this book, but I feel like I already have a really long review of this book on my channel. If you guys are super interested in my thoughts, check out my October reading wrap up, or you can check out my Goodreads review for this. This one is a very easy ranking for me. It's gonna fall right below Mary. It's going to take the number 3 spot, so it's knocking out Our Hideous Progeny. The final book that I have yet to update you guys on is The Bandit Queens, and I finished this book on January 6th. I have to say, if there's one thing that I have learned so far from this reading challenge, is that all of the books that I have chosen for my best of 2023 are without a doubt 5-star favorite of the year books. That was one thing that I really wanted to do this challenge for, was to see if all of these books really do stand up and are favorites, because some of them I read very early on in the year. For instance, this one I originally read in April, and I now have absolutely no doubt in my mind that these books are all worthy of the top spots. They are all favorites of the year. The Bandit Queens on my reread was phenomenal. It was everything I remembered it being and more. It's another one that I do have a ton of my placeholder sticky tabs in there, and I'll go back in and annotate it when I have more free time than I currently have right now. For our rankings, I am going to put The Bandit Queens in the number 8 spot. So it's falling right below How Can I Help You, and it is beating out episode 13. At this point in our challenge, like I said, it is currently January 9th, 2024. I still have remaining to read 4 more books. I am going to try my darndest to read those books as soon as possible. I don't want to prolong this vlog any longer. I've been filming this vlog now for over a month. A lot has happened in that month, and I really want to move on to other things. I have been reading other books since January has started, and it has been really nice to read some new things and not just all these rereads. Although I have to say, this has been such a rewarding challenge. I'm having a lot of fun. So I will definitely pop back in once I finish my next book and I have another update for you guys. It is currently January 14th, and I have now finished my final 4 rereads. On January 10th, I finished reading The Music, and once again, I really enjoyed this book. The last page of this book gave me chills. It gave me chills the first time I read this. This is a slow burn mystery horror that is as moving as it is haunting. My favorite thing about this book is 𝚲𝙾𝙽𝙃𝙷's writing. She has the most striking, detailed descriptions, and it just makes this book read so intense. My one gripe with this book, I have the same thought on the first time I read this, is that the final climax scene, I feel like it runs a little bit too long, but overall, as a whole, this book is mysterious, it's unforgettable, and it's certainly a favorite of the year. As far as the ranking, I am placing theme music at the number spot. This is such an interesting challenge as well because I'm kind of surprised with some of my rankings. Some books I thought would be higher, some books I thought would be lower. The next book I finished was Death in Her Hands, and I finished this one on January 12th. I really enjoyed this. I actually listened to this book in a single sitting in the bath. I sat in a extremely hot bath for like 3 hours straight and listened to the audio. And I listened to this audiobook while reading along with the physical copy in the bath. This book is a total fever dream. It's about obsession. It's watching this main character go through this manic episode and you're just living in her mind. This whole book is so speculative and hallucinatory. I really felt like while reading this book that it would make a fantastic A24 film. If that film studio ever turned this book into a movie, it would be amazing. I am ranking this book at the number slot, but I really enjoyed this one. I had a lot of, I don't want to say fun rereading it, but it was very fascinating. I was hooked. The next book I finished was the next day on January 13th. I finished rereading Bunny. I actually read Death in Her Hands and Bunny. I started them both on the 12th, and it was such an interesting reading experience reading both of these books together because to me they are very similar in the themes that they explore and how much they both feel like absolute fever dreams. This book to me is like a puzzle. It's a puzzle in word form. The entire book reads like a metaphor. Throughout the story, you are trying to dismantle this metaphor piece by piece and figure out what is actually going on, what is just in the character's head. This is another one similar to Death in Her Hands that is a deep dive into mental illness. I love how many different ways there are to interpret this book. That is my favorite thing about Bunny, is how much I just want to keep digging deeper and deeper into this, and it keeps my brain thinking. For our rankings, I am placing Bunny at the number 4 slot. I had a really difficult time figuring out where I wanted Bunny to fall. I originally read this book January 24th of 2023, so it's almost been a full year since I read this for the first time, and this was the first book that I read in 2023 that I knew was going to be one of my favorites of the year. Just because of how much I love those first 3 books, Bunny is falling at the number 4 spot. And my final reread was Sundial by Catriona Ward. I also finished reading this book on January 13th, the same day as Bunny. I was totally mind blown reading this book again. It feels like you are on this bullet train barreling 200 miles an hour towards this totally explosive, anxious showdown. It is just so vivid. The story totally pops off the page. It is so colorful. I feel like when I read this book, I can literally taste the desert, and it is delicious. I read this book actually, we're currently in the middle of negative temperatures and there was a snowstorm yesterday, but I felt like while reading this, I was in the middle of the dry heat and the blinding sun of the open desert. I love this. I love the themes explored in this. This is totally a favorite of the year. And for our rankings, this book, Sundial, is falling at the number 5 spot, just below Bunny. So now that we have reread all of the 15 favorite books of 2023, I did want to do one last minute little look at my list here and see if I wanted to rearrange anything. The one edit that I am going to make to my list here is I want to flip Ghost Eaters and Our Hideous Progeny. Ghost Eaters is going to sit at number 6 and Our Hideous Progeny is going to sit at number 7. But that is my final list. That is my final ranking. Our top 3 of the year is The Haunting of Hill House at number 1, Mary at number 2, and The September House at number 3. It's so interesting looking at this list and how everything falls because, like I said, some things I thought would be higher or lower, and it's really interesting to see how all my favorites kind of stack up against one another. I had so much fun doing this challenge, rereading all of my favorite books of the year, and I definitely plan to do this again this December 2024. While it was a little bit stressful towards the end because rereading and annotating 15 books in 1 month is a little bit more challenging than I thought it was going to be, but it was a really good experience. It was a very rewarding reading experience and I had a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for watching this vlog, and I have really high hopes for 2024, and I hope my list for the end of this year is going to be just as amazing. But other than that, I hope you guys are having a fantastic January, and I will see you in my next video.
And I heard like a Game Boy.